Hi, my name is Tofeq.
And I am Nada.
And today we are going to talk about WebSocket protocol.
What is a WebSocket? WebSocket is a communication protocol. It provides full duplex communication over TCP protocol. It can be used with real-time applications. When we want to load the UI without even having to refresh the UI, it automatically refresh without even re-establishing a new connection.
WebSocket is part of application layer protocol. It is located in the same place as the HTTP protocol for transferring data in packets to transport layer use TCP protocol. As opposed to transport layer advice, which is an interface through which application layer protocols access services. Transport layer WebSocket and it is a protocol which describe the rules of interaction between different hosts on the application layer. Why is it needed another protocol?
HTTP protocol runs in request and response mode. Client sends a request to the server and as response from the server receives web pages and shows it, for example, in a browser. Such a model provides a very simple operation protocol.
But its disadvantage is that the server can't send anything to the client by his own will. He has to wait for the client to send a request and include this data in the response, and if earlier it was arranged very simply and was used to browse the web, such a model was quite enough. Now the web has become more complex and is used for a large number of other tasks.
Now the web has become more complex and is used for a large number of other tasks. For example, for instant messengers and chats. In this case we have several clients which are connected to the same server.
One of the clients sends a message to the server and then the server transmits this message to all other clients as a chat, so that they can see it. But if we use the HTTP protocol, then the server cannot send a message to all clients as soon as he received the message. The server have to wait for each client to send their HTTP request.
This problem can be solved within the HTTP protocol. For example, send requests and at small intervals in order to get the message quickly. However, the problem is that such a solution creates a heavy load on the network.
The WebSocket works ineffectively and just are designed to address this issue. In packages as opposed to an honor API between client and server is set constant a bidirectional connection.
Over this connection the client can at any time send data to the server and the server can also send data at any time to the client, on its own initiative. Also, anyone having received a request, can respond to him immediately or after a while since, in the way the system think it is correct and effective.
So the WebSockets are much better suited for development applications and real-time than the HTTP protocol. The standard protocol, which is definitely in RFC 6455 in 2011. And now it is supported by all modern browsers.
WebSockets at the application level, a constant bidirectional connection between the client and the server at the same time. The transport layer also uses a persistent TCP, WebSocket and HTTP connection.
And it works on ports 80 and 443. If encryption is used for WebSockets, there is a special prefix in URL WS abbreviation for websites or WSS if socket are used in conjunction with SSATLS for encryption. The URL for websites looks like this.
The work of WebSockets protocols consists two parts. First part is connection setup, opening, handshake. Part 2, data transfer. These logical parts are separated from each other in order to this could work modern infrastructure in a HTTP protocol connection. Setup stage is very similar to protocol work.
And in the packages the client's connection request looks like get HTTP request with the upgrade option specified in the protocol to go, WebSocket, and also in the header. The key, WebSockets, is indicated. It is 16 bytes generated randomly and presented in base 64 encoded. Key is used to protect against fake requests. To establish a connection to a WebSocket is also indicated in the header.
Server response to establish connection. WebSocket of also looks like HTTP response. Response code 101 switching protocols in the header of the upgrade also indicates the protocol to which is switching into packages, and the security key is indicated, which received on the basis of a key sent to clients using a special algorithm described in document RFC 6455.
Between client and server. Created direct TCP connection is established over which data is transmitted without using the HTTP protocol in packets. The data is transmitted in the form of frames. The developers of the WebSocket tried to reduce the overhead of data transmission. So the WebSocket of header is binary as opposed to HTTP, where the headers are in plain text and very large. As a result, in overhead for data transfer via WebSocket is much lower than via HTTP.
Data which you want to transfer via WebSocket and do not have to fit in one WebSocket frame and support fragmentation. A large message can be split into several parts and conveyed in several frames. In WebSocket there are frames of three types. Frames that transmit text information presented in UTF-8 encoding. Frames that transmit data to binary, and control frames that are used
to maintain a connection. Ping-pong server requests are used at regular intervals. Send the client a ping control request.
And after the client has received this request, he responds by sending a control frame pong. This is necessary in order to solve two problems. The first is to make sure that the other side the connection is still functional, and the second task is to maintain these connections open if there is a client and server are not directly connected, for example through a proxy server or load balancer.
To break connections, use special control frames with the clause type. The connection can be broken by either side initiative. For example, let the client sends the server a close message. After the server has received such a message is also sent back by the manager frame close and break. By either side initiative, for example, let the client sends the server a close message. After the server has received such a message is also sent back by the manager frame close and break.
WebSocket frame header looks like this. This is how this picture is from the RFC doc. The main fields here are the operation code that says what kind of frame is. It can be a frame that transmits text data, binary data, frame ping, pong, close, and other types of frames in the payload section. Data is actually from the payload that needs to be transmitted in packets in order to reduce overhead.
A clever scheme is used to indicate the amount of transmitted data. If the amount of data is small, then for the field the length only 7 bits are used, and if the amount of data is larger, then they can use extra header bits, and field size data length can be 16 or 64 bits in the first part of the frame. The first kind is the film flag, are used to indicate fragmentation. If this flag is equal to 1, then the current frame is the last, while if the data fit in one frame entirely and there is no fragmentation, then the flag is fin set to units.
And if the data was fragmented and are transmitted in several frames, then in all frames except the last flag fin set to 0. The next 3 flags are reserved and is used to extend the web protocol of advice on whether the extension is used and which client and server need to agree on the process of establishing a connection.
In data packets during transmission can be masked, and in practice this is done almost always if the data masked by the flag mask set to 1, otherwise to 0. If data masking is used, then frames must include the key masking the mask key. It shifts here the key masking randomly generated by the sender, and this key must be different for each frame. If masking is used, then the part of the payload data contains the data that is obtained as a result of XOR operations on key and original data.
So we have considered WebSocket of protocol, which allows organizing in bidirectional transfer data asynchronously in packages and are very useful for development real-time web applications. The WebSocket of operation consists of 2 parts. Of the first stage of the installation of the connection are now used for this purpose HTTP protocol headers, but WebSocket of protocol implies extension, and if after some time there is a popular other protocol and not HTTP, then the procedure for establishing a connection in WebSocket can be replaced with another protocol.
The second stage is written out ready. Data transfer is performed through a direct connection between the client and server using frames of socket formats. The advantage of sockets in them is that This protocol supports all the infrastructure in which it is created for work of the HTTP protocol. If you want to replace the HTTP with WebSocket in your application in the existing infrastructure, don't need to change anything, except the WebSocket, and provide better performance. The headers of frames of fax experiments are used in binary form. They are enlarged the headings.
This is the end of the lecture. Thanks for watching.
Tofeq&Nada.